Keep it locked to A Square Podcast. That's right.
What up, baby?
Hey, this K Kemp, and you rocking with the A Square Podcast.
Be sure to click and subscribe.
Cornbread.
What up, dog? DJ A-Ron, A Square Podcast.
With information on tricks to the trade. Make sure you subscribe and share.
Also turn those notifications on to the podcast.
Always keep your shoes by your feet.
By your feet. Mr. Cornbread. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is the moment we've all been waiting for. asquarepodcast.com. Make sure you guys visit us there. I am DJ A-Ron alongside my brother, as always, Cornbread. And we're here for another exclusive interview, an exciting interview. You may have seen her on billboards all across your city.
Okay.
You may have seen her in and out all of your neighborhoods.
Like some stalker stuff or like what? Like what you mean?
You might even rent from her, okay?
Okay, all right.
You might have bought from her. I'm pretty sure you have. But today, ladies and gentlemen, we're sitting here with an amazing person, a great personality. And if you have had the opportunity to like really meet her, she is a wonderful, amazing human being. And she is, in my opinion, paving the way for people of color, in my opinion. And ladies and gentlemen, we're here with Dionne, Clifton.
Thank you.
And we thank you for joining the A Square Podcast.
I'm super appreciative. First and foremost, the intro is, wow. Okay.
Let's get a round of applause for that. Let's get a round of applause for that.
I'm always trying to be gracious, so the intro, I appreciate
But
that.
it's honest.
But I do want to be clear on a couple of things.
Okay, let's do it.
If you see me in and out of your neighborhood, it's just to show some houses. Because that can get really salacious real quick.
Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah.
So let's do this. Before we get to all of that and where you are now, let's back up. Let's meet Dionne, the person, prior to real estate, everything that you have going on right now. Let's talk from the very beginning. Can we start there?
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so I might cry.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay.
Okay, so it all started in 1981. Like, seriously, it started in 1981. I was born in Urbana. My parents took me home to Scottswood. My first address was on Hunter Drive. So, like, I have a deep connection to this community. Grew up here, went to Urbana High School, Urbana Middle School. I'm an Urbana girl at heart. And then I went to the University of Illinois, as, many people in our community do. And my good friend, Shannon McFarland, who's also an Urbana girl, always says, girl, you don't look like what you've been through. Because, I'm appreciative of you asking me, like, okay, tell me about before now, because there was a lot of things that happened before now. And, right now I'm a lot older and a lot more settled, but I was very unsettled and very young at one point in my life. So, like I said, I went to Urbana High School, went to the University of Illinois, dropped out of the University of Illinois for a little bit and tried to find myself. Lived on the West Coast, lived in Vegas, upset my parents significantly, and then kind of tried to find my way back, finished school, and then I moved to the West Coast for grad school, lived in LA for 7 years, again, upsetting my mother. And then I was able to move back to Champaign, and that's kind of that's the beginning of this current chapter, right? I've lived many lives. When I was in LA, I was doing things in television, I was in graduate school, like I said. I had a different kind of trajectory for my life, or what I thought it was going to look like. But I think everything that's happening in my life now, the space that I'm in right now, all started when I made the choice to move back to Champaign, Urbana in 2012. So
can you dive? I'm sorry.
No, you good.
You mentioned something. You said you're upsetting your parents. I think in life, we've all upset our parents at some point, but you put some emphasis on that, in my opinion. So can you dive into that a little bit? What was there? They had huge expectations, or how's that?
So I was a love child, and I mean that the idea that my parents literally planned to have me. They were like, they had all these expectations for what my life was going to look like. I think they were very much so projecting into my life, like, you know, this is who she's going to be, this is the kind of professional she's going to be, this is what her life is going to look like. And my life, you know, did not look like that path that they tried to create for me, which, you know, God bless them. I appreciate them for that. A lot of the reason that I've been able to experience a lot of things in my life is the pressure that my parents put on me. But I'm very thankful for my independent spirit, for my ability to say, I know that's what you all want from me, but I need to do this in my own way. Sure. Now, along the road, I also recognize that I wish I had taken a little bit more of their advice, because it could have been easier, but you know, I had to kind of go about things like the long way, in a lot of ways, you know. And, you know, I have had some really crazy experiences in my life that I probably didn't have to have if I had, you know, gone that path that my parents wanted me to go. But I would never trade that, because it has given me, like, it has uniquely prepared me for everything that I experience now.
That's amazing. So you just warmed my heart, man. And I just found out that you went to UHS. So
That's right.
Hey, I'm a loyalist, man. So
Urbana all day.
Go Tigers, man.
It's
So,
all three of us.
all three of us, man. So I got you.
Absolutely.
So let's go back to high school real quick. So tell us about how high school was, because plenty of us, let's say on the first day of school, you fill out the what's your favorite, what do you like, what favorite vacation, but it also has what do you want to be when you grow up, right? So what were your want to be when you grow up? And then I know that was somebody probably following your dreams. And then how did that change? Or did you always write, I want to do this, what you're doing now? So how did that journey?
I absolutely had no desire to be a realtor until I became a realtor. In fact, I didn't even know what a realtor was. I didn't have that awareness. Growing up, my parents, you know, did not own their home. My mom bought a home for the first time when she was in her 40s. I was already out the house. So that wasn't even something in my radar.
Right.
So, you know, a lot of people in our community specifically are first generation home buyers. So, you know, our proximity or understanding to real estate related careers is very limited. Okay, so that is not at all what I thought I was going to do. Now, my father was an attorney, so that's what I always thought I was going to do, right? My dad did a really good job of, while he maybe impressed a lot of things into me, like as far as success, education, reading, like all of these things that he wanted me to do, he did a really good job of being like, if you want to be an attorney, that would be great. Like, I'm not going to pressure you to do it though. So it wasn't ever like the pressure to do that specifically. It was just pressure to be successful in like a very traditional way. So in high school, that's what I thought I wanted to do. I was like, I'm going to go to college. I'm going to be an attorney. Mrs. Matthews was my counselor at the time, and she knew my dad, you know, like they went to college together. So she was very much so like on board with kind of like moving the chessboard around to help me get into the university and like put me on the path to do those things. So that's what I always thought I was going to do. High school was a really great experience for me personally. I had a great time. I had, you know, lots of different friends. I was a cheerleader. I was not an athletic person. So I, you know.
What's not an athletic person? Like you weren't good at it, or you just was trash, or like what? Like you went out, you made the team, and you just didn't play.
Never made a team except for cheerleading. Okay. So cheerleading is a sport. You know, it requires a lot of, you know, coordination, strength, you know. So that was the sport that I was really good at, but like as far as like I wanted to play softball, didn't make the team. Okay. Basketball was always a little too intimidating. Thought I'd be great at track, was very slow. So
I got you. Okay.
I was in student senate. I was an academic. I've always been academic. I've always enjoyed learning and education, and like I've always done well in school. So, okay. But I felt like high school was awesome because it was, you know, a little bit more freedom. My parents were very strict, specifically my mother, but it was a little bit more freedom, and like, you know, like you're just kind of like living this, you know how Urbana is. Like Urbana is like such a interesting, at least was when we were coming up, like it's such an interesting place to grow up, and like the way the school was, and like everyone has like all these different lifestyles and the way they're being raised, but we all come because we all like.
There's only one. It's only one middle school, one high school, right?
Yeah.
So we get.
And that is such a unique experience. Like even in Champaign, right? Like they're going to different middle schools and different high schools, but all of us, like regardless of where we came from, like we're all going to the same middle school and high school. Like the most formative parts of our lives are happening together. So like I think that, you know, I really enjoy high school for that reason.
I agree. I mean, even when you talk about, let's say, adults, when you talk about inclusion and diversity and stuff like that, I big up Urbana for that, because you get to, you know, when you spend the night at somebody's house and it smells different, or they have different religions or whatever, right? You like, okay, it's different, but it's accepting compared to what is this? I don't like it. No, it's okay. You guys are welcome into your house. I'm gonna spend the night and see what's going on. So I do appreciate that. I know you said you went to U of I. Was that always the goal? Did you get a scholarship, or how did U of I get selected?
So my first choice was UCLA, which I could have gone to UCLA, but I was not emotionally, mentally ready to be that far away from what I consider my normal routines, like my friends, my family, everything, right? So I ended up going to the University of Illinois. My dad went to the University of Illinois. My aunts went to the University of Illinois. So that felt like, you know, like a reasonable. Well, school? I don't think that I didn't even connect that until further down the road. But, you know, like when I was at the University of Illinois, like some of my dad's professors were still there. I mean, they were like emeritus at that point, but they were still there. And so then that's when I started connecting it. But I felt like it was like a reasonable second choice because, you know, my dad went there, my aunts went there. So University of Illinois was a totally different experience because for the first time in any sort of point in my life, I felt very segregated, and you know, I was like around all black people all the time, which I loved because I was like, oh, okay, this is nice. You know, I'm not the only black person in a lot of spaces all the time. It's like, you know, some of my classes I was maybe the only black person, or 1 of 5 or 1 of 10 or 1 of 20, but it was a lot different because now, like, you know, you go to U of I and it's like you're just, you know, they really do kind of put black students together. That was like a part of Dean Shelley's kind of initiative at one point when he was there, God rest his soul. But he was really, he found it really important to make sure that we all connected with each other, because his idea was that if we could connect with each other, we help each other through, right? Dean Shelley was there when my dad was there. So to me, that was like the first time I ever had that kind of like community experience in a learning environment with other black people, and it really opened me up in a way that I'm really appreciative of. Now, I say I had a good time in high school, but I really had a good time in college. Sure. Because
you visit me every weekend, so I know.
Yeah, that's a fact.
It was nothing but freedom. It was like so much freedom. Like, you know, we were going to union parties. We were going to the Iota House, the Kappa House, the Q House. I was like, oh my gosh. And it was like,
parties.
The union parties. Do they still have?
No, not like how we.
It wasn't the same. I heard you could get liquor at union parties now. Is that true?
We were bringing liquor.
We were sneaking it in, but we were having fun on just vibes. You know,
yes,
like
absolutely.
just vibes and 9 West boots. Yes. So you guys don't know what 9 West boots are.
Absolutely. I got my start there. I was DJing from a closet, okay, at the Kappa House, at the Black House. They called it the Black House, in a basement. That's where I started at. Shout out to Jeff. Shout out to Jeff from the Alphas. Jeff O, I appreciate you, and thank you for putting me on as a DJ. So shout out to him. But yes, the parties were totally different.
Parties were totally different. I mean, I don't know. You know the best parties? The stadium parties. You all remember that?
The what party?
The stadium parties.
Oh my God.
I went to ISU, so I didn't go to. Like I said, I'm a lawyer.
I went to both.
So anything ISU, I'm
went to
going.
both.
Illinois, get them out of here.
But the stadium parties were crazy because everyone, like ISU, Western, Northern, everyone would come, and it's literally like what they would do is they would open up the stadium, like, you know, like when you go into football games, like where you go to this concession, that entire area would be open. It would just be full of people.
I was 15 years old. 16. I think I was 16 years old. I ain't had no business.
I had no business at 18.
We went to Joe's at 19. That's it. That's all I know. Joe's.
Clyde's.
Yeah.
Come on now. We was outside.
I remember that.
We was outside. What a time. What a time.
Cool.
Yes.
Cool.
Yes, indeed.
So, so we leave Illinois. Is that changing your trajectory on what you want to do, or is it I still want to find myself? I want to leave.
So what had happened was,
Shout out to Jamie Foxx.
Uh-oh.
Fox
That's
just
a
dropped
fact.
that. Fox just dropped that. All right. Shout out to
That
Jamie.
is true. That is true.
I was going through a mental health issue at that time, which I think in that period, it wasn't called that. Like, it was just like, you know, I don't know what we would call it.
You're lost or
Yes,
something like
you're
that.
lost,
Yeah, I got
right?
you,
Like,
got you.
but I was really just going through like some depression and probably like just needing to also just like I was having an existential crisis, you know, pretty much trying to figure out who am I, what matters, and like who am I going to be, you know, who am I going to be outside of what people told me to be. And so I dropped out of school. I moved to Vegas. My best friend at the time lived in Vegas, so that seemed like a logical thing to do, right? And so I moved there, and without a job and with very little money. And at first my parents were like, okay, like, we're not gonna cut you off, you know, like, we'll help you if you need a little help. What I should say is that my parents were definitely against it all along. But if I called them and I was like, hey, you know, like, I need some help, they would send me $100 here, $50 here. But then they got to the point where, like, you don't need to be living in Vegas. Why are you living in Vegas? And in their mind, you know, Vegas was just like pimps and hoes, you know. So they like, please do not live in Vegas. But I lived out there. I got a job working for a radio station, Hot 97.5.
Nice.
I did the middays.
I never knew that.
See, you can learn a lot.
Hey, man.
I'm with it. You never know. You never know.
Yes, I did them. Actually, my first gig was overnights. Me and my friend, my best friend, we did the overnights, and we were called the Luna Chicks, and it was crazy.
The Luna
Chicks.
The
'Cause
Luna
it's two
Chicks.
girls, lunatics, and we pretty much would say anything, right?
Okay.
But it was overnight, so you get a little bit more leeway on the overnights because no one's really listening.
Right.
But in Vegas, everyone's listening because overnights is like everyone's awake.
For sure. That's a fact.
And this was like the golden era of Vegas to me because it was like when you could still go and have a buffet for $5.99 and like you could go out with $20 and have a great time. Now like you go to Vegas, like you're spending $2,000 in a weekend, right? So, but this was like a time where we didn't have a lot of money, but we had a lot of access, and like we were in our 20s, and it was like great, and you know, again, what a time to be alive. So. But I think that experience was so good for me because, again, my mom is a praying woman. She was in Urbana, Illinois, on her knees praying every night, please bring my baby home. Like, I don't know what kind of nonsense she's getting involved in out there, but, like, you know, God doesn't always answer our prayers the way we want him to, because he did answer our prayers, because what happened to me in Vegas is I realized that, you know, I came out here and I'm doing exactly what I feel like I want to do, but I'm not really doing what I want to do. I need to go home and go back to school, finish school, and like start a career.
And social media wasn't around.
Social media.
There's no social media,
She couldn't keep tabs. Black Planet. We had Black Planet.
We definitely had Black Planet. I might have been the first subscriber. I was on there.
I was on Black Planet.
Okay. We was on there. They need to bring it back. Bring my page back at least.
I really just feel like Black people do not get enough credit for starting social media. Because Black Planet was the first social media.
Yes.
And it was popping, and it was underground, and it was lit, but like nobody talks about that. People talk about Facebook. They talk about MySpace, but they don't talk about Black Planet.
We got two people
long before MySpace.
Yes, we got two people. Black Planet and Lil Duval. If it was not for Lil Duval,
Was he even out?
he was
Yeah.
he was the first person doing all these skits and stuff that we see now. He was doing all of that way back when. That's why I said like we're missing those people that actually started everything. But I'm telling you, back then, yes, amazing. What a time. What a time.
What a time to be alive.
Yes.
I'm gonna just keep saying that, I'm sure.
It's okay. It's okay. So then, after, you know, you had your time in Vegas, you back, everything's good. Now what?
So I moved back to Champaign, Illinois. So I moved back to Champaign, Illinois twice, and I really want to reiterate that because people always try and act like moving away from here is like such a flex, and sometimes it is. And I'm not saying anything about anyone who chooses to move away from here, but sometimes like you can really do a lot of amazing things here. So if you're a person who lives here and you're just like, oh, I got to get out of here because that's the only way I can be successful, that is not necessarily true. There is lots of ways to be successful here. But I moved back here and finished my last year of undergrad. Finished last year of undergrad and moved to California, LA. I always wanted to go to UCLA, I told you that. And so I was like, this is my shot to do what I should have did when I was 18. So now I'm like, you know, in another headspace where I'm like, now I'm living in the past, like trying to make up for who I felt like I should have been. Yeah. Yes, so I felt like I was like, this was my opportunity to kind of like go back and do what I should have done to begin with, right? So like I was like, I'm gonna go to LA, like that's what I wanted to do. I want to go to UCLA, I'm gonna move to LA, and I'm going to, you know, get into television. That's what I want to do. I want to be a TV producer. I want to, you know, work in television. So I moved out there. I went to Cal State LA and got a master's in philosophy. And then
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's not easy.
And then because again, I said I was a lifelong academic, I went to USC and got a master's in comm management from Annenberg. Now, I love philosophy. That's what I majored in undergrad, but the USC degree was actually, you know, it was more leverage. It was more like currency, like academically. It was able to get me into more rooms than any other degree, especially on the West Coast. Like, so I got an internship at NBC, which, you know, a lot of people at that age, I think I was probably, let me think, in 2010, I would have been 29 or 28. I was probably like 27 when I got that internship. And a lot of people were like, internship. And I was like, yeah, I'm gonna get an internship. I'm just trying to get my foot in the door. So I got an internship at NBC in the non-scripted department. It was awesome. Like I got to, non-scripted basically means like anything on that's no script. So like all reality TV, game shows, The Apprentice was big then.
So is this like Tila Tequila, like Flavor Flav era, or was?
Yes,
like
that is exactly.
Okay.
It was not. Yes,
Okay.
that was the
Gotcha.
era. Yes.
Gotcha.
So I went from NBC to a production company, and the production company I worked for had just did the Chad Ochocinco dating show where he met Evelyn Lozada. So that's the era, just so you can kind of like think mentally where we are, which I think that's probably like what, 2011,
2012, yeah.
So that was awesome. But, you know, I was coming home a lot, you know, like I was like, oh, okay, like LA is awesome, you know. I know people don't love LA. A lot of people, especially Midwesterners, be like, ooh, LA is not for me. But I loved LA. I loved the culture.
You loved the traffic.
I loved.
You loved. No, you gotta love it all.
I hate that they're slow, bro. Bro, nobody has a clock.
No,
They
there's no
just
clock.
walk around. I'm like, dog, what are y'all doing?
There's zombies.
Y'all don't-
Zombies.
I love LA too, but that shit, I'm like, hey,
do, I
speed
do.
up. Let's go. Like, we got stuff to do.
You know, at one point I considered myself an Angelino, so I'm gonna let that slide.
I'm sorry, man.
But I loved LA. You know, the traffic was very stressful to me, especially growing up in Urbana and spending a lot of my time in Urbana. Like, I just was like, this is nonsense. I lived off of Pico and La Brea, which is, you know, those are the two major streets I lived off of, which, I mean, if you know LA, you know, it's kind of center LA. And I worked in Burbank. And I'd be in traffic for an hour every morning and an hour every night. Like, traffic was so bad. I would get off at 5 and I would go to the gym until 7, because that's when traffic would stop, and then I would drive home. Because if I didn't do that, I would just be in traffic.
For sure.
But that's a benefit.
For sure.
That's totally a benefit.
So, but LA was great. Like, again, I lived there, and I look at the girls that I know, like, that are kind of my age who are living in LA now, and I'm just like, it's completely different because it was much less expensive. It was way more access. I actually went to a Diddy party in LA, but it was not.
All right, let's talk about
All
it.
right, hold on.
Let's get to it. Let's get that. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the A Square Podcast. I am your humble host, DJ Aaron, alongside my brother.
No, I'm not here. I'm not here.
Cornbread,
You're doing it solo.
and now we doing Diddy stories.
So, what I want you to understand is it was not a Diddy house party. It was just like a Diddy party. I'm like in a club, right?
Air quotes.
Right.
Yes,
it was not a baby oil party. Let's just say that. I bought my drinks from the bar. I wasn't getting handed drinks. So, but my point is that it was, like that's the kind of access that you would have very easily with no money. Because I made good money in LA, but it wasn't really good money because the cost of living is so much higher. Yeah. If I made that money in Urbana, I would have been rich, But
that's a fact.
So, but I'm saying the access was a lot easier. I went to Prince's house once in LA. I went to, or not Prince, it's Eddie Murphy's house, but Prince is old. Prince
Old estate?
Owned the house first.
Gotcha.
And Eddie Murphy lived there at the time. I was with one of my girlfriends, and Eddie Murphy was like, "Oh, you're beautiful. Do you want to come over tonight? Bring a friend." And so I was like, "Hell yeah, we going to Eddie Murphy's house? Don't he live in Prince's old house? Let's go." And so, these are the things that happen in LA that,
It's normal.
Yes.
Even I'll say traveling as much as I have, being a DJ, that being in LA, I ended up at a Jamie Foxx party. You would end up.
What? Where am I at right now? Hold on, bro. What's up with y'all two, bro? What's up with y'all two? Y'all got something to get up y'all chest?
No, hell no. No.
All right, I'm listening.
I'm just saying.
I'm listening, man.
Being in the biz.
Cool. Yeah.
I was just saying, being in LA, you end up in places
It's crazy.
It wasn't planned.
It's unrealistic.
Absolutely.
It's like you couldn't write it.
Right.
I met Jamie Foxx a couple times in LA because he did this movie where he was basically a savant who lived on Skid Row. I forget the name.
The Soloist?
Yes, The Soloist.
There you go.
And so
Are you talking the Cornbread movie review?
Yeah.
If it's a movie that's out, he knows what.
That's a good movie, though. That's a good movie.
So
That's not a true story. It's good.
a person I was dating at the time was also in the movie, which is also a very common situation in LA. You're always either dating an actor or knowing an actor, whatever. But he was in that movie, and so I came on set, and Jamie Foxx, I met him, and he was like the kindest, nicest person ever, like so nice to me. And so he had, he had like time booked with an esthetician. I didn't even know what an esthetician was at that point. And so for a facial, and he was like, "You can just give it to her." So like, I was like, "What?" So I had like my first facial because Jamie Foxx was like, not, I'm sure he was getting them all the time, and it wasn't a big deal to him, but it was a big deal to me. So and then the second time I met Jamie Foxx was like randomly with a bunch of other like famous comedians, right? Like people who I can't really name them, but one of them, I'm thinking of him, and he was on The Office. He can play the piano.
Craig Robinson?
Yes, Craig Robinson.
Boom,
Craig
there you
Robinson
go.
was there.
Okay.
It was like a random spot right outside of LA. It was like almost like a Dave and Buster's kind of vibe. And we were just all sitting at a table having drinks because my friend knew them. Yes. She knew Craig Robinson. That's what it was. And so like LA was crazy to me because coming from Urbana, small town, like this is not my normal life. So then I'm having all of these like crazy experiences, meeting celebrities all the time, having proximity celebrities, being at Diddy parties, like Tuesday night going out and seeing like, Tracy Ellis Ross, who I love because I used to watch Girlfriends all the time, or like whatever.
They need to finish that.
That's cool.
They need to finish the story.
I'll never forget them for what they did.
If they don't finish the story by 2025, we need to start a petition. I won't ever forgive them for it.
That's cool.
They finish the story.
But yeah, so my point is that, I was having these almost out of body experiences because I'm like, wow, like I've never experienced anything like this, but I still was coming home all the time. Yeah. Like I would come home at least every other month, at least, if not every 6 weeks. Now, mind you, my dad had MS at the time. So, I also felt like I had limited time to spend with my family. For sure. But I also just like really was coming back here a lot. And then my dad passed, or he was getting towards the end of his life, right? And so I really felt like I was working a lot in LA. I was having a great time, but it just was not fulfilling me. It was not what I didn't feel like.
It wasn't home.
It wasn't home.
honestly.
I had friends there. I have friends there that I still love, but like it was not home. And so I moved home. And like I said, this chapter of my life all started in 2012 when I moved back for the second time.
Do you feel like it's obviously you've had positive things happen in your life since you moved back, but we always look at people. I feel like when they leave, they be like, "Oh, I'm out of Champaign. I'm out of Urbana. I'm gone." And then when they come back, some people look at it like, "Look, we knew you was gonna be back. You knew exactly what it was."
Absolutely, yeah.
But how do you feel about that?
To a certain extent, I did feel that pressure. Right? I definitely felt like, okay, like I'm moving back. But now by this time, social media was big, right? So like my pressure of moving back wasn't about people here locally, because I didn't really know anyone locally like that. You know, I knew a few people. I had a couple of friends that I had maintained friendships with through the years, but it wasn't like a lot of my friends who lived in Chicago mostly, you know? So it wasn't like people were like, I didn't feel judged by people who were here when I left and then were still here when I came back. I felt more judged by just like what was being portrayed, like social media portrayals. Because at that time I still cared about that sort of thing. You know, even now I still care about that to a certain extent, but I cared a lot more then. Especially because I had already, you know, told everyone, I'm going to be on TV. I'm going to be a television producer. This is what I want to do. And now I'm moving back and I'm, again, hitting another kind of mental health crisis in my life. My dad had just passed. I'm dealing with depression and nobody called it that. It was just like, oh, you know, you're grieving. But like I was dealing with like a very deep depression at that point. And so, yeah, like there definitely was a little like, I felt a certain kind of way about moving home. I did, because I did feel kind of judged. But again, like the people who were really close to me, like my friends and family, the people who made me feel like my people are here, like it's not home in LA, they really helped, you know, kind of make that better. And then I started meeting new people too, you know, like in some of the relationships that I have now that I consider like my deeper relationships with people in my life are people that I met in that era. So, you know, like parents always tell their kids, like, you can always come home. Like my mom always told me that too, but I also really appreciate that about this community. Like you can always come home. Like it's okay to come home if you have to. It's great if you don't. I mean, it's great if you live halfway across the world, but like if you come back home, like I feel like you do have an opportunity in this community, even if this is not your community. Even if you're not from here, I feel like this community does a really good job of nurturing people who want to be nurtured by this community.
I love it about Urbana.
I wanted to ask you, when you were speaking about that, in 2023, 24, everybody is talking about mental health, talking to a therapist, and all of that. It's a big thing. Yeah. You mentioned you were depressed. I'm sure you went through a lot, very deep. How did you get through it? Are you through it? And like what did you do? Because especially in our community, it's kind of frowned upon. If you go see somebody, they want to know, what did we talk about before, Antonio? They going to the crazy place. You know, you know how our people are.
We need to leave it at the cross.
Exactly. So how did you navigate that?
The first time I ever went to therapy was like 2019. And so I feel like going to therapy for the first time, I received tools, like great tools. Like the first therapist I ever had was the exact person I need to have at that time and for the rest of my life too. Like the things that they taught me, because I've had different therapists since then because they ended up moving. And it might have been 2018 actually, because I feel like teletherapy or whatever came around after they moved. I was like, why don't we just do that? But I feel like I got tools that really have helped me significantly since, right? And so like we don't talk enough about just especially for me, because I felt like in my whole life I've been such an overachiever and so many people had so many expectations for me. Like it wasn't okay for me to not be okay. And so like sometimes I just felt like, okay, like I don't feel okay. Like I feel like I can't do this, or I feel something, but I don't really know how to describe what it is. By the time I went into therapy, again, I was dealing with another kind of existential crisis. But it wasn't so much depression. It was just like, again, you know, I was trying to figure out more who I am and like what I am. And my therapist helped me identify every point in my life in the past where I was severely depressed and I didn't recognize it as such, which was so transformative to me because I was like, oh, that's what that was. You know, that's what that deep feeling of just like feeling, you know, like unfulfilled or like not like I'm contributing or feeling like I'm disappointing people, you know, and like helping me identify these points in my life where I was not actively being treated for depression or even talking to a therapist, but helping me realize, okay, like when your dad died, you're probably like clinically depressed and that's why you were doing these things. That's why you were acting out this way. Or like when this happened, this is kind of like, you know, maybe some of the things that led to these things happening, which just gave me like a lot more clarity on not only my past, but, you know, once I was able to kind of sort out that, it also kind of helped me sort out more of my future too, and my present.
Thank you for sharing that. We appreciate that. And like I said, man, me and Aaron have been doing this podcast for 5 years, and you know,
Coming up on 6,
different countries and stuff like that. But that's one of the reasons why we want to start this podcast, to say, even if nobody listened, one person might listen and listen to that story, right, and understand, because they might be going through it, right, at any age. So we appreciate you for being vulnerable in that. So I want to transition more to, you know, what you're doing now, right, and in real estate and stuff like that, right? So for me, you know, I didn't see ownership, right? The only person who owned a house I knew about was my grandmother. That was it, right? I lived in about 15 houses with my mom. I thought rent was mortgage, right? Like, shit, you don't know the difference. You don't know the difference, right? Pay the bills, or if not, you're going to move somewhere else, right? So when I moved to Atlanta in 2012, I think my rent was about $1,300 a month. In Atlanta, and it's 2012 shit. Now that's probably $2,600. I don't know. It's crazy. Inflation's wild. But I was driving down the road going to get some food, and I see that they're building some new complexes, and a sign said, you know, ownership for 400s in the 400s area. I said, shit. $400? Shit, let me go ahead and see if I qualify right now. I'm already paying $1,300. That's easy. $400, man.
Wow, renting is worse than buying.
I need to own something ASAP.
And he called me.
And that's how excited. I'm like, oh, I'm out of this place. I'm going in there, right? But not knowing that's $400,000, right? So even the education I didn't know, but that's when, to me, that was the moment where I'm like, I have to start learning about ownership and what does that look like, right? Or what does my credit look like? What does my financial future look like? So do you have one of those moments where, I know you said you were kind of taught it, but you weren't? Like, what was that moment where you like, no, I don't know what's going on, but I need to start learning what's going on?
Yeah, so my friend, PJ, when I moved back, I started working for his family's company. And
Shout out to PJ.
PJ, yes, is much younger than me, but like way more successful than me, right? And so PJ like has owned real estate since he was like 18. Nice. And so, you know, like I kind of always knew that, but I never really processed it. And so then I'm just like, okay, PJ's like, you should get into real estate. And I'm like, no, I'm going to move to Chicago and get back into television. But then I was like, you know, watching kind of what he was doing and seeing like, okay, so he's bought, at this time, let me see, like PJ at that time was in his early 20s. And he's like, oh, I just bought this house. Oh, I just bought this house. I'm like, what do you mean? That's what adults do. You're not an adult. But he was an adult, and he was, You know, so then I'm just like, okay, so then it's like proximity to him, and then it's proximity to other people that I know in my life who are buying real estate. Now, mind you, in LA it's different because no one my age buys real estate because everything's $10 million, right? But then when you come to the Midwest and you can buy a house at that time, you can buy a very nice house for $120,000. Very nice. People are doing that, and I'm thinking, okay, like, maybe I should buy something. Maybe I should buy a house. And so then I started kind of aligning myself and being around more people who were doing that, who either owned homes, who were buying homes, who were buying investment properties. And I would just like listen to them. You know, I was too embarrassed to ask questions at first because I was like, you know, I should know this. Like, I'm college educated and I don't know anything about real estate. I don't know anything about investing in real estate. So I was too embarrassed to really fully ask the questions, but I would just listen. And so then I was like, okay, I'm going to try this. Tried to try it, but my credit score was terrible. And so, which is, you know, another thing that I always try to tell people. Like, at one point, let's see, I would say probably 2015, my credit score was in the 500s. That is terrible. And I apologize to anyone I'm offending if your credit score is in the 500s. I just have to tell you your credit score is terrible. But the good thing is there's lots of things that you can do to get it much better, right? And so then once I became aware, because awareness is 100% of the problem. It's like people don't know. You know, I deal with people every day in trying to get apartments, and they can't get an apartment because their credit score is in the 400s or 500s. And I'm like, all you have to do is X, Y, and Z, but you don't know that, you know, you feel like you don't understand how things are impacting your credit score. You don't understand how your credit score is impacting your life. And I was one of those people at one point, but then once I had the awareness and the understanding, then I started doing everything I needed to do to get my credit score into the 600s, the 700s, and now we are flirting with 800s, you know? And so, like, I like to tell that story, not to be like, oh, my credit score is in the 800s, but to be like, a very short time ago, my credit score was in the 500s, right? Now my credit score is close to 800, and you can do that too. As a matter of fact, it takes longer to get your credit score from the 700s to the 800s than it does to get your credit score from 500s to 700s. Sure. So you can really improve your life significantly, because I think, you know, once I started realizing that I needed to do that, it took me like maybe 18 months to get my credit score in the 700s. So, like, yeah, it takes time, but your credit score in the 500s, all you got is time.
And I think people need to understand you're not grandfathered in any score. Right. So your credit scores could be 800, and then tomorrow could be 7, then the next day after that 6, right? So it's the education of what you're doing with your money and being financially responsible with that.
Speak to the people that are scared to do the research on their credit score, because I think that is a big thing. And I'm speaking from experience. I'm saying, you and I have had this conversation. I'm honest on this podcast, and you know that. I went from, I don't even want to look at what my credit score was until I was like, you know what? If I don't do it, I'm not going to be able to be successful. I'm not going to be able to improve or whatever the case may be. But from somebody that's in your position now, I feel like you would people would benefit from hearing what that looks like when you were first like, I need to look and I need to make it happen.
I mean, it's there regardless, right? So if your credit score is terrible, it's terrible if you look at it or not, and it's just impacting your life, right? So, I mean, I can't even tell you how many times I see people, you know, trying to do normal things, and they cannot do normal things because of their credit score. And it's normally things that they can do, things that are very, very accessible to them to do to improve that. And when I say normal things, I'm talking about rent an apartment, buy a car, get their utilities in their name. You know, it's just normal things that they are not accessible to them because of their credit score. Now, you know, we could get into a whole conversation about whether or not that's right or wrong. Like, should people be judged based upon credit scores, or like, you know, should people based upon basic necessities? Should people be denied basic necessities and needs because they have bad credit scores? We can talk about that, but at the end of the day, they are. So if you're choosing not to be aware of how other people are judging you financially based upon a credit score, then, I mean, sure, you can do that, but I don't recommend it. And the thing is it's something that you absolutely have the power to change, and you can put within you can change it very easily. Most people need to probably pay less than $500 to improve their credit score significantly, right? You might have a collection from Sprint, and they still call it Sprint even. You might have a collection for $119. Yes, for $119 that is impacting your credit score significantly, that you can call and pay it off, and it might not raise your credit score immediately, but it will get your credit score up from where it is. And then you might have like a medical collection that you can get on a payment plan for, or apply for assistance for. It's really just about, you can't do any of it unless you know what you need to do.
For sure. So you got into real estate. What was, I guess, did you get into real estate to buy a house, or did you get into real estate to sell houses? Did you get in real estate to purchase a house to rent? Like, what was the first, tell us about that first time when you signed that dotted line, you got that blue pen, you know what I'm saying, and you signed it, and this is mine. What was that?
I got into real estate to sell homes.
Okay.
I said, I don't own a home. I've never owned a home. I don't know anything about this, but I think that I can do this because, again, I'm in a community of people who I feel like support me and love me and are going to support me in this venture, right? And so that's why I got into real estate. I had a very successful first year for me. I think my first year I made like $36,000, which at that time, and to be your first year and to be a person of color in the industry was significant, right? And so I was like, oh, okay, let me try this and that. Let's see what number two do. So every year I kind of was building on it. But what I want people to understand, because people really need to understand, is that everything that you see in a person's life is like an iceberg. You get to see the tip of it, right? But what you don't understand is that I feel like my career didn't really start taking off until probably 2020. In 2018, I started my own business. I said, you know what? I think I can do this on my own. I kind of want to represent my business in a very specific way. I have a very specific idea as to how I want to be represented as a real estate agent and also as a person in this community. So I started my own business and things were okay. And then 2019, things were okay. And then 2020, we had the pandemic, which I was I have very vivid memories of crying every morning because I was like, this is the zombie apocalypse. This is a rapture that my mom's been talking about.
And you're an entrepreneur.
Right.
It's difficult.
And I didn't know what was going to happen, right? And so, but what happened was there was a real estate boom. And so when that boom happened, that was really good for my business. And things started to really, really grow at that point. That's when I felt okay, I'm not the most successful realtor by far. I'm just not, I don't sell the most houses by far, but I definitely put my mark in our industry. They do reports, of who sold how much real estate each month. Right. And so there's pages and pages, and I'm always, happy when I see myself on that first page or the second page even, because 1, I'm Black, 2, I'm a woman, 3, I created the brokerage that I work in. There's not a lot of people, regardless of what they're doing, that can say that. So so I'm really in this space in my life. I'm just, I try not to look side to side, and I just try to look forward. I try not to compare myself to what other people around me are doing. I just try and think about what I desire to do in the future, how I want to be a representative for real estate related careers or real estate purchasing or investment. I want people to say, oh, there's a woman who, leads a real estate business. That is for me. Oh, there's a Black woman who does that. That's for me. Oh, there's a woman who owns a business. That's for me. Or when people drive down Neal Street and they see my billboard, there's some little Black girl who's driving with her mom and looking at that and being maybe she doesn't know what real estate is yet. Maybe she's not even thinking about it in terms of real estate, but I want to be a person in our community that reminds people that it's for everyone. you know. And so that's kind of like one of the things we did this summer was like real estate's for everyone. It's not just real estate, it's business. It's like being a face in our community. It's like being a responsible person in our community. It is for everyone. And that's like kind of like what my focus is now, is being, you know, a responsible business-minded person in our community and being connected to real estate.
And I haven't said this to anyone, but I'm going to say it right now. I will tell you this.
Hold on, because I don't know what he's going to say.
Okay. I'm not going to get us canceled.
I don't know what he's going to
I'm not going to get us canceled, okay? I promise I'm not. When you said there's some little girl that's going to look up there and see that and be inspired, my daughter, we were coming down Neil, and she looked up, and every single time that we drive all over this place, and I say, that's Dionne. Do you remember Dionne from the, and I tell her that, and we coming down, and she says, that's Dionne.
It's amazing.
She doesn't know. She doesn't know a thing. But what you said was important, because it is important for people to see people that look like them. It's important for, little girls to look and see things like that. It's extremely important, because you don't know what their little minds are thinking at that time. Coming up, when we was growing up, all we saw was Big Mike. This is it furniture. And everything is going down or down or down.
Eating the onion or something like that.
You always get a free onion.
Yeah, for sure.
And I thought that was the staple.
That's a fact.
Until I understood what IKEA was. And I said, I can't afford IKEA at this time.
That's a fact.
So I'm going to go in. But you never know, right? So I already applaud you you already did that. That's an accomplishment. So thank you.
That's amazing.
And that is amazing. So yes, I just wanted to put that out there to you. Yes.
That's amazing. You are a boss, right? So do you mind talking to the bosses who might be listening, right? Like, what are some hiring practices that you preach? Or what are some things that Dionne is looking for? Because either there might be some people looking for a job, right, listening to this, or there might be somebody who is tomorrow, they're real estate, I got this business, I need employees. Yeah. What's some tips and tricks that they need to look out for?
So hiring has been my hardest. It has been my worst plight so far. Like, it's hard. I hate Indeed. I don't like the whole process of it all. I've had a lot of success by referrals, right? I have a lot of success in my business through referrals, and we live in the kind of community where you can do that, right? So I'm looking for someone to do this. My good friend says, I have the perfect person. Gotcha. She's looking to get into real estate, or she's looking to get to do this, or he's looking to do this. Like, every single person in my office right now was a referral. It was no formal interviews. We have formal interviews. So I should say it was no formal search process. It was someone, I put the word out to my friends and my family, I'm looking for someone to do this. And sometimes it wasn't even just like while I was actively looking. It was like, my most recent hire, I met her at a party, right? And like her fiance was like, oh, my girl, she wants to get into real estate. And then my friend had been like kind of talking me up to her. Like, my friend's in real estate. If you're getting into real estate, you need to talk to her. And like, for me, one of the things that's most important in my office is the vibe, right? I want everyone to be happy there. I want us to enjoy being there. I want us to all be on the same page, have the same values, to, have the same buy-in. And I think that it's worked really well from the referral process. Mind you, I realize that for everyone that's not possible, but I've been blessed that it does work for me. That is how I am hiring right now. And it works amazing. Like, every single person who works in my office, I love them. We're a family. Some people are always like, stop it. Don't call people at work a family. You guys are not a family. You work together. It's your work family. It's not like you don't have Thanksgiving with these people. You don't spend Christmas with them, but you spend more time with the people at work than you spend with your actual family, right? And so you have to lean on them. You have to trust them. You have to, have understanding for them. as a manager, one thing that I try and do is like look at people's strengths and try and like move them around to be able to leverage their strengths versus trying to, you know, make them fit where they don't fit. And that only comes from really understanding them beyond just an employee and like looking at them as a person that you care about, as a whole person. You don't really get to that when you're just looking at them as a 9-to-5 person you work with, you know?
As a number or something like that. Yeah, I agree. So first off, we want to say thank you for inviting us in your house. Right, we're here now. So, do you mind talking about it? Like, what was that process like? What was your favorite thing about building a house? What was your worst thing about building a house, or the stressful part?
My favorite thing about building the house was just like the vision, right? So, I have vision for everything. Like, that's one thing that people love about me or hate about me. It's like I have a very like. I was having a conversation with my girlfriends once, and I think it was Casey, and she was like, one thing about you, you always know what you want. Because we were talking about, like, they were like, does anyone have a suggestion as to where we should go to dinner? And I was like, yes, I would like to go to Nanda. And, like, I guess, like, her point was, like, you always know exactly what you want. Because in those situations, a lot of times people are like, I'm good with whatever everybody else wants. But I take that. If you ask me, I know what I want to do. Like, I don't have any confusion about exactly what I want.
Should we pause that for a second? Because you might be the number one first woman I've ever met. We need to figure out. We need to get a side B. What is it? A side B? I've never
clone her decision making.
Have you ever asked a woman in your life where would you like?
Clone her decision making.
I didn't say my man asked me. I said my friends asked me.
Oh, do not clone her decision making. Do not clone it. Control Alt Delete what I just said.
Control Alt Delete is crazy. So you know.
I like it.
What you want.
I'm fairly decisive.
If somebody asks you something, you got it.
Yeah, normally.
I love it.
I'm very clear on what it is that I want, right? Now, do I always get what I want? No, but the first step of getting what you want is knowing what you want. The second step is making it clear to other people what you want. So, in the building process, let's talk about that is the building process, right? Step one, knowing what you want. Step two, making sure other people know what you want. Now, where things get dicey with building is knowing what you want and thinking that other people know what you want, and that is not actually what's happening, right? And that is no one's fault. You know, I'm not blaming that on anyone. I'm just saying, like, if you're building a house, you need to set your expectations to understand that, like, you have to over communicate. Everyone has to over communicate because it's literally creating something out of an imagination, right? Your imagination, your builder's imagination, the electrician's imagination. So you have to make sure that everyone's imaginations are aligning with what you actually want, right? So, and for a person like me who is very specific, like down to the details of exactly how I want things to look, where I want them to be from inch to inch, like I'm not the easiest person to work with in a build for those reasons. But, you know, like, I know what I want. What can I say?
It is what it is.
You shouldn't apologize for that. I mean, you're paying for it. So, I mean, you shouldn't apologize for it.
You're paying for it.
I love it. So what's one thing about the house that you really like, man, I envisioned that and I really got that? What's that one thing?
The kitchen.
The kitchen.
I love to cook.
Okay.
I love to entertain. I love to have people over. And I love the kitchen because it flows into the dining room, which is, for me, like, some people want to have a separate dining room because they feel like, oh, I don't want people to see me cook. And I'm just like, no, I want it to be a very, like, kind of, like, fluid space. But I love the kitchen. It's everything that I've ever wanted in a kitchen. As far as space, as far as, like, dimension, as far as, like, the appliances that I chose. I was just like, I'm going to have the space that I want for my kitchen. So it just makes me so happy to be.
I love it. Now you're going down the road that I love, which is cooking. One thing that brings me joy, even as a DJ, like DJing makes me, it's like I'm at peace. 15 years in doing that. One thing I love is just making people happy for the few moments that they're around, right? but I got to cook up the show. I got to make it right. What's your favorite dish to cook?
It really depends.
Okay.
Okay. So, I mean, because the thing is that I have a very...
Don't give me Taco Tuesday. Don't give me Taco Tuesday.
No.
Okay.
But like I have a broad like kind of like range of what I can cook.
Love it. Okay.
So, but I think the things that make me the happiest to cook are is like soul food, because I feel like everyone loves it. It's like Sunday dinner. Like I love putting a roast on in the morning before church on Sunday, and like it's done. I'm a purist when it comes to greens. So I was thinking about this. I was driving down Windsor the other day, and I was like, I don't care what nobody's saying. I ain't ever putting no greens in no Instapot.
No, never.
I'm just gonna make them the slow way. Some things just need to be made slow, and that's one of the things that I love about soul food. Is like everything is like such a slow process, and there's no recipes, right? You just do it, and
salt to taste.
You taste, yes, exactly. My grandma, like, that's how she cooked. That's how my mom cooked. And so, like, I remember just sitting in the kitchen and watching them cook and being like, there's no recipes. You just learn. Like, my sweet potato pie, like, it always tastes the same. But I cannot give you the recipe. My mac and cheese, I kind of can give people a recipe, but, I mean, I can give you the recipe, but the sauce ain't gonna be the same.
You gotta do it. Yeah, that's right.
So it's just like, I love soul food for that reason, because there's no recipes. It's just, it comes from the soul. But I also like, I like making a little like lamb chops. I love making lamb. It's like one of my favorite things to make. I love grilling. I'm good at grilling too.
Okay. You use coffee grounds for your lamb?
No, I use rosemary and butter and garlic, but if coffee grounds where it's at.
I mean, I'm just saying. I heard that it takes away the gamey taste a little bit.
So what do? You just like marinate it in the coffee grounds, or what?
You can, but there's a lot of different things that you could do. Because it's the gamey taste that hurts me.
So I was talking to Aisha about lamb, because we're having a work holiday party here, and we were talking about the gamey taste. And I like to make rack of lamb over lamb chops. I feel like they're less gamey in the taste and how you prepare them. And if you cut the fat off a little bit, not all of it, because you really want that fat too. If you cut a little bit of the fat off of the actual meat part, not off of the like bonier part, I feel like it really helps with the gamey taste.
This is how I know she know what she talking about.
Well,
I was testing her to see what was going on. I was gonna call Cap. I was gonna put your hat on her head and call Cap.
So
she knows exactly what she's talking about.
We've reached the rich part of the segment. That's why I'm with y'all. Y'all listen.
Best lamb though. I hate to double down, but I have the same birthday as Martha Stewart. So.
Okay.
Sam's Club has the best lamb. So if you want to make lamb, go to Sam's. Not Costco.
Yes.
Not Schnucks. Not Harvest even. Sam's.
And we're not supporting them, by the way. They need to come to us.
Yeah.
And they need to support the podcast. Okay?
Yes. What? Yes.
Yes. Do that.
But that's where I get the lamb from.
Okay.
And lamb is good. So my friend Kayla, she likes to make lamb too. Her and her sister, and we've been talking about doing a chop off for a long time. Right? It's like who make the best lamb chops.
I need to be there for that.
And so like different kind of like, some people do like a little balsamic glaze, and some people just, I'm a purist. Like I like just the classic. So rosemary, garlic, butter, salt, and just how you prepare it with a good sear. That's me. But I love a little lamb chop.
I smoke mine.
Okay.
Just put it on. I just smoke it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bring me a smoked lamb chop.
I got you.
A little lollipop.
Here's what I do. Now I get down. You said the grill. And one thing I do is I get down on the grill. I need to get better. Okay. I'm working on it, but I do that.
My grilled wings, I think I have mastered the grilled wing situation.
Okay.
And the trick for that is the marinade.
Yes.
I've learned. So I like to marinate them in apple cider vinegar and sesame oil. Sesame oil is smoky.
Yes.
So it has like a nutty, smoky flavor. And if you put the apple cider vinegar in there and the sesame oil, then what happens is it gets into the meat. Like it's not just like superficial on the outside.
Now, why is my mouth is just watering? I feel like we needed to have something going on.
Yeah, we should have cooked.
And here, I don't smell no grease. I don't smell no, but that's
Don't worry.
okay.
We're going to do another interview. Don't worry.
We
We'll
gonna
do another
we gonna put the place out here. We gotta see what time. We gotta see. We gotta put this together. Yes, this is wonderful.
So my last question for you. So we've interviewed about 45 people, and about 25 of them have been female.
Yeah.
And so nobody gets off this hot seat. What I'm about to
Same
ask.
question
Same
every time.
question. All females get this question. So, what is some girl code? We have to hear.
Girl
What's
code.
Dionne? You out with your friends? What's one rule that you can't break, or one rule that your friends know don't break it? What's some girl code to those listeners out there, and for us? You know, we be stealing game from
that's
y'all.
a fact.
So what's some girl code for us? Go
Also,
ahead.
can I add to this?
Yeah, absolutely.
Don't act like I don't remember when y'all was sitting on that high dive stage on them couches.
Ooh, the Justice League?
Absolutely. Them ripped up couches on the stage. Whether it was me or Delaney DJ, we was in the building and y'all was sitting on them couches. Let's get to it. Girl code.
Girl code. I think girl code in your grown life is to show up how you expect to be showed up for, right? And so that, I mean, you know, I have high expectations for my friends because I feel like I try to be the type of friend who can reciprocate that. So it's nothing worse than having a friend who expects a lot out of you but never really can show up for you in the same sorts of ways. Thankfully, I don't have those kind of friends. I feel like all my friends show up for me in the same ways that they expect me to. But I think that that's the girl code, right? That's the friend code. Just kind of showing up for each other the way you want others to show up.
I love it.
I love it.
So your name is Keisha when you all go out, or you are Shantae? You look like a Shantae. You look like you could really be a Shantae. You.
What is going on?
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been a wonderful conversation tonight. This is amazing. I am DJ A-Rod sitting across from my brother Cornbread, who always shows up in cult gear. He's always going to have a cult something on. Always.
Bury me in a cult casket. That's easy.
That
I'm
is
a
100%
die happy
fact.
man. But can you
Yeah.
please tell the listeners out there how they can reach you if they might have questions? Maybe there might be somebody out there looking for a job, and you got to open it, and they can maybe a graphic designer or something. I don't know. There might be somebody out there.
I
So
would
how can they reach
love
you?
to have a full-time video person, or at least actually let's start with part-time because you know. But I would love to have a video person, like someone who's great with editing. Would be great. But if you want to reach me, you can reach me on Instagram, Dionne Clifton. You can reach me on Facebook, Dionne Clifton. Everything's Dionne Clifton. Honestly, you can Google Dionne Clifton Urbana. I'm the only one that's going to show
And the
up.
name of your business, though.
Live Real Estate Group. People think it's live.
No.
I say you can call me whatever you want as long as you call me. You can call it, whatever, not me, but you can call my business. You can say Live or Live as long as you call us. But yes, it's Live Real Estate Group because we want you to live better. And so,
And a beautiful life starts. That's right. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the A Square Podcast, and we appreciate you all for joining us today. Thank you, Dionne. This has been wonderful, educational, and we appreciate you.
well, thank you all for having me. It was great.
Yes.
Good. Thank you.
All right, so A Square Podcast, y'all. We are out of here. Well, before we get out of here, Antonio, what do you always tell the people?
Dionne, do you have any shoes? I have lots of shoes. Do you keep them by your feet? Right now? Just in general. Do I keep my shoes by my feet? You do. Just say yes.
She does.
All right. Keep your shoes by your feet.
Keep your shoes by your feet, ladies and gentlemen. It's the A Square Podcast, y'all. We are out of here. Peace.